The forgotten Russo-Turkish War of 1877. In the late 1800s, the Russian Empire dominated a large portion of Eastern Europe. They had large ambitions to expand into the Balkans from the beginning of the century, as they referred to themselves as the saviors of the Orthodox Christians. The Ottoman Empire, starting in the 19th century, was in a declining state, with their weakened army and instability in the region made them vulnerable to many of their enemies, and the European powers took advantage of it. The Ottoman Empire's bankruptcy sparked the Great Eastern Crisis, caused by poverty in the Balkan region, which in turn prompted numerous uprisings and wars among the Balkan ethnic groups within a single year. The number of rebellions against the Ottoman occurred throughout Europe as a result of the Herzegovina revolt on 18th of June 1876. Serbia and Montenegro decided to launch a war on the Ottomans, and the Herzegovinians formed an alliance with the Montenegrins. The Battle of Vorshi was one of the essentials to Montenegro's triumph in the conflict. Montenegrins engaged in fierce battles and combats in 1877. The war had started, and the outcome was far from clear. The Russian Empire mobilized 300,000 troops within range and sent them into the Balkans. On the other hand, the Ottoman Empire mobilized 200,000 soldiers. Half of them were allocated to fortified garrisons, leaving the rest for the army of action. The Ottomans also possessed patrol boats along the Danube River, total control of Black Sea, and fortifications. They also had better weapons such as modern rifles developed in the United States, Britain, and new German artillery. On April 12, 1877, Romania allowed the Russian forces to invade the Turks by passing through its borders following the Russian declaration of war on the 24th. Turkish bombardments of Romanian towns on the Danube ensued as the Russian forces crossed into Romania via the recently constructed Eiffel Bridge near the Prat River. Despite being nominally under the Turkish suzerainty, the Principality of Romania declared its independence on the 10th of May 1877. A few months had passed, with enormous losses on the Russian side. Osman Pasha organized a defense and repulsed two Russian attacks. The number of the two sides were nearly equal at that moment, and the Russian army was greatly discouraged. The Ottomans might have taken control and destroyed the Russian bridge with a counterattack, but Osman Pasha was ordered to remain fortified in Plevlin and did not leave the fortifications. The Russians besieged Plevlin because they had run out of troops to use against it. They therefore requested assistance from the Romanians by crossing the Danube at the Battle of Shipska Pass. On August 9th, Suleiman Pasha attempted to assist Osman Pasha with 30,000 troops, but the Bulgarians stopped him. Following 3 days of combat, the Turkish army retreated after a Russian detachment under General Fyodor Ratsky. The Romanian troops soon joined the siege after crossing the Danube. In the Caucasian front, approximately 50,000 men and 202 guns made up the Russian 1st Caucasian Army Corps, which was based in Georgia and Armenia and was commanded by the Grand Duke Mikhail. On the other side, General Ahmad Mukhtar had 100,000 men. Ottoman army stood in the opposition to them. Even though the Russian army was better equipped for the conflict in the area, it was outgunned and lacked advancements in heavy artillery technology. On May 17th, Russian soldiers pushed and captured the Adra region in the last week of May. Russian units also besieged the city of Kars, but the Ottoman reinforcements broke the siege and forced them to retreat. With some help of reinforcements, General Lazarev attacked Kars again on November 1877. He was successful in putting down the southern forts that led to the city and taking Kars itself. After a protracted siege, the Russians captured the strategically important fortress town of Izium on February 19th. The Russians took over their areas, which were recognized as the Kars Oblast. After pressure from the British, the Russians signed a truce with the Ottoman Empire on March 3, 1878. They made the Treaty of San Stefano, which declared that Bulgaria would become a re-established Russian puppet and Romania, Serbia, and Montenegro would become independent. However, the European powers recognized the threat posed by this Russian expansion, so another treaty was held in Berlin that changed one thing. Bulgaria would now be divided into two provinces, one in the east and one in the north. Under the Ottoman Empire, Bulgaria and Romania would each have their own governors, and the British would acquire Cyprus, Austria acquire Bosnia, and Greece extend somewhat north. The Ottomans, as a result, took a blow to their power and were now called the sick man of Europe.